Welcome to Midlife Love Out Loud, your one-stop love shop. If you want to be in a fulfilling relationship, but you're just not finding the right man, and you're questioning whether love is in the cards for you, you've come to the right place. Midlife Love Out Loud is where single women gather to welcome in next level love. With your host, super duper expert love mentor and inner critic tamer, Junie Moon.
Hello, soul sister. Welcome to Midlife Love Out Loud, your one-stop love shop. I have not said that in a long time, and the reason I wanted to bring that tagline in, if you will, is because this is the hub. This is the love hub to learn all different parts. Ooh, I'm spitting on myself. Not even going to edit that out. This is the place to learn all the pieces to the puzzle of having an extraordinary second half of life. And you will be thrilled to know that I have Cindy James in the house today. And we're going to be talking about a juicy, juicy topic. Good to have you here, Cindy.
It is a pleasure on every level of my being to be here.
We've been yapping for a few minutes now, and I'm like, oh, I want that on the podcast. Oh, I want that on the podcast. We have so much to share with you. And she is a powerhouse. Let me let you know a little bit about her. Cindy is a master level healer in multiple modalities, including sound, Reiki, holistic health, life coaching, shamanism, and more, and has taught self-transformation and healership both in private practice and in group forums for over 2 decades. She's the founder of the Prosper Plus app, YouTube channel, and podcast, the Galactic Council of Women, all genders welcome. I love that. The Galactic Council of Women, like holy shit. And the unprecedented Fierce Feminine Prosperity Power Program. She is on fire, and she's going to share it with you. And she's living the life of her dreams. And she has been delighted by exploring the nature of sexual pleasure as a divinely ordained creative force for as long as she can remember. And that is where we're headed. Seriously, I am thrilled to have this time with you. You are a superstar, powerhouse, changing the world in your way, opening hearts and minds and clitorises for lots of pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much, Junie. It is extraordinary and an extraordinary blessing for me to be able to collaborate with you and to be able to then emanate and share with you, dear listener, your soul sisters that come to this podcast and receive something that is so deeply meaningful. I'm your demographic as well. I'm 58 years old, single after being divorced and dating and having experiences, and devoted to knowing that being respected and revered and in the masculine and feminine principle is how I experience it. And that pleasure principle coming into fore will change the world, is changing the world. And thank you for doing it. It's really an unstoppable drive within us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, women, we've been rising for a long time, and there's something really special happening now. I mean, there's a lot bubbling up to be healed. And it's kind of messy, and it's kind of juicy, and through the chaos will come some really good stuff. And you and I are doing some groundwork and sharing our tools to help other women do the same, because we need each other. A rising tide lifts all boats, and there are just so many amazing women like yourself that are doing the work to help others really take a stand, a bold stand for our divinity, our power, our pussies, all of that. It's like amazing.
Prosperity, the power to have money and pleasure and love and relationships, and to be able to nurture new life. That's what we know. That's what the feminine principle knows. And especially us at our age, we have the wisdom that comes with years. And that wisdom may or not be respected the way we would want it to be, but we can start respecting it and respecting the ordained pleasure principle that is unique to a female body form. That is, I believe, a foundation for bringing in what we long for personally and for a new age.
So I wanted to share something that you wrote, that you shared with me, that I just would love to read. Humanity is at a crossroads of the soul. There is a vital and joyful need for us midlifers to cultivate the pleasure principle in the positive current, especially around love, sensuality, and sexual pleasure, to dissolve the unconscious and conscious global addiction to negative pleasure, including stress, worry, loneliness, shame, competition, etc., and so that they can have full access to and the ability to intentionally direct the creative life force energy that made worlds to help elevate this world right now. Ha, 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 ha. Yes, had to read that whole thing. So let's dive in. What is the pleasure principle? And what is the difference between positive and negative pleasure? Because that's something that I'm conscious of, but I've never heard it put in that way.
Oh, it's so beautiful, Junie. It's a game changer when you understand that the pleasure principle is part of life. Life and pleasure are one. Life and sensation, life and feeling. Like, we wouldn't have a body. If we didn't need a body, we wouldn't have a body. And a body feels, and a body has nerve endings. And so the pleasure principle, what happens is, this is the story. I'm going to tell a story about what happens when we incarnate into this body. We come as fresh, new, fluffy souls seeking to love and be loved and to experience love in relationship. It's what we do here on the planet. We get to experience the seeming other, the lover and the beloved. And that's the joy of creation. So we come seeking that, and we seek pleasure, but we might not have been fed when we were hungry, or changed when we were changed, or had an environment that was conducive to that. And we started to feel that sting or that harshness, that shock to that instinctual and spiritual drive. And what a personality does to compensate with that is we attach the pleasure principle to that. If you want to understand why you can't stop doing that thing that doesn't bring you pleasure, but you just can't stop, is because somewhere in our lineages, in order just to cope, we attach the pleasure principle to at least feeling the shame, the lack, the fear. There's a lot of feeling in shame and fear and lack and resentment. Like, oh boy. But it's that kind of pleasure principle. I like to say it's so seductive, that pleasure in the negative. It's like, you want a lollipop, little girl? Oh, I want a lollipop, but oh boy, that'll screw you. Like when you say yes to that lollipop. And that's the analogy I use when I get that. Is like, I am being seduced out of the positive pleasure that I can create into those old wounds that I am healing. And so shame then becomes humility. Pride then becomes dignity. And pleasure that comes from that fear that wakes us up in the middle of the night becomes that pleasure that wakes you up from a dream having an orgasm and your hands are nowhere near your crotch. It's like that kind of like the shifting of the current. And I always like to say our imagination is the steering wheel for the divine authority, the creative force. And now as adults, we needed those defense structures when we were young. But as adults, and especially as women, as we are right now, this humanity at a crossroads of the soul, being how we direct our imagination and the pleasure current, it is just designed for joy and more. And we have never, ever been supported by the infinite, by the cosmos, by what's happening on this planet than in this moment in time, no matter what or hear in the news.
Wow. Love, 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 love. Let's all take a breath into that one. There's so much there. And what you were going to say something?
Well, it's a lot for our body to tolerate pleasure supreme. There's a quote that comes from a lineage called Pathwork, and it's a series of guided lectures that Eva Perakis, who's no longer in the body, delivered in the last century. And she talks about, or the wisdom that comes through her, talks about that, I call it cosmic pleasure supreme, is feared or avoided for a really good reason. Because when the personality is still geared toward lack and resentment and isolation and all of those things that hurt, that's that energy, that pure energy, which really is neutral, will shunt it into that.
Yeah.
So at first we just have to tolerate it. So your guidance about taking a breath, and I always say, take 360-degree breaths. Let your whole body breathe. We need that right now.
So good. So good. You're speaking my language, not a shocker. I'm a shadow worker, and that's kind of what I always, when I get interviewed, a lot of times I'll say, I want to tell a story, from the beginning. And what I love, how you're tying it to the pleasure and the sensations in the body, and how we've had these experiences that were negative, and that we are here to feel, and that energy has to go somewhere. As a shadow worker, we say, well, if you disconnect from your self-esteem, you throw that energy away. And so you lose access to the ability to say, hey, I actually have value, and so maybe we play small or we hide and there's a consequence. And so what I'm hearing you're talking about is the tie in the body and the beliefs that we take on and the negative experiences, and that the body really does want more. And that's what we're here for. Why would we choose a body? It's so true. And you also talk about pleasure affecting the world, healing the world, and our relationship to our sexual pleasure. Can you talk about that? How do you tie that individual experience to affecting the world?
There are facts that are fleeting and come and go. Science is always changing, regardless of what people think about that. And then there are eternal truths, those lasting truths that matter. And I will say that this is an eternal, essential, lasting truth, that your personal happiness, pleasure, prosperity, harmony, plus matters, and it serves the world. We are connected. The stuff that is our soul, I always say, if you want to know what your soul feels like, when you can purely love without attachment, maybe a pet or a baby or a sunset, that is the energy of your soul, that love without limits. That connects each and every one of us. We are drop souls. It said that it's a great ocean, whatever the infinite is. And for the purpose of creation, we have these drops that come out, but we are made of the same thing. And I see it energetically as a beam that connects all of us. And so the beam can be covered with tar and muck and enmeshment, or a cluster fudge, as I like to say, of codependency or shunning.
Yeah.
And it can also be clarified and purified. And quantum physics and quantum mechanics is doing it. Joe Dispenza's current work and Bruce Lipton. I know
they're my like, I can't get enough. I know.
I have celebrity crushes. Wayne Dyer no longer in the body. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton. I'm still patterned in the heterosexual female drive, so I have a lot of that. But also Teal Swan and Esther Hicks and all of really amazing people that are doing this.
Yeah.
And so pleasure, to please, to be able to praise and experience is contagious. True love cannot be forced or coerced, but it can be awakened through love itself. In a virus spreading the globe is just a mere shadow, a fraction of the power of love and pleasure spreading throughout the world. And it's happening right now. It's happening with you and me in the fleeting now, in the eternal now. When you, dear listener, are receiving this, we are in collaboration energy, and collaboration energy is pleasurable. And I love talking about the pleasure principle in the body. So women come with the only organ that is made only for pleasure.
We're going to pause there. That is like such a perfect place to have a commercial break, because when we're coming back, we're going to talk about that very special organ called the clitoris. We'll be right back. Are you ready to break through the glass ceiling of dating and find the quality man you've been looking for? Do you think there are no good men left because you get ghosted or breadcrumbed? If you're sick of sucky dates where you wish you'd be anywhere else other than with the guy across the table, I have the perfect answer for you. It's called the Midlife Love Guide to Successful Dating. In it, you'll discover the 7 key strategies to call in your Mr. Right with ease. And it's free. So go to coachjuniemoon.com/love guide and you can grab it today. That's Coach Junie, JUNIE moon.com/love guide. You don't have to waste any more time with Mr. Wrong. Just download this free guide now and magnetize your Mr. Right now. All right, continue on. Let's understand the power of the clitoris and how it connects to our power, our personal power. It doesn't matter about even gender or biology, like how this affects us. Go for it. Tell us more.
It is one of my great joys in this incarnation as Cindy James to be able to talk about the organ known as the clitoris. I didn't even know how to pronounce it because I'd only read it later in my 20s. And I think especially for this demographic right now, I bet that most of us did not know about the clitoris until our adult life. I mean, I knew about the epididymis and the vas deferens and the male genitalia. Well, I mean, I can spit that out from 9th grade health, but I never heard about the clitoris.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it wasn't until after my divorce a few years ago, and I studied with a sex therapist and pleasure instigator. She's an enormous force that you might want to have on this show. And she helped awaken me from the damage. We did the best we could, the ex-husband and I, the damage to not being able to experience pleasure the way I longed for it. And especially with respect to orgasm, with climaxing and with this organ. So first of all, the first time I think I heard that word said was on Seinfeld when he dated someone and had sex with her and he forgot her name.
Right. Was it Dolores, I think? Clitoris? Rhymes with clitoris, Dolores, something like that. Yeah.
I will tell you, I've looked up like the pronunciation. I only think that he did that for that show. It's clitoris, or I don't hear another way of saying it.
Right.
And so hearing that then and saying it and then really learning about it. I've been teaching about sexuality through almost every client that I've ever had for decades in group forums will hear the word clitoris, including I like to share and speak and provide forums for mega retirement communities because I think they're like untapped uranium. And this one group is tapped in. They've been having me for 4 years come. And in their huge chapel, they wanted me to talk about the sacred feminine a few weeks ago. I said all of the words: clitoris, orgasm, climax, vagina, intercourse, masturbate. I just said them all. And the energy, what they're doing as the real powerful elders of the community, yes.
Wow.
So the clitoris, 8,000 nerve endings in that organ alone. I did not know until a few years ago even what it looked like. It's this little tip of the iceberg, has 4 legs. Do you want me to show? I'll describe it for the listeners, but I know YouTube is going to show it too. There's a 3D model that was made by a French woman. Viva la French, because I believe the language of French vibrates at the level of the genitals and is very pleasurable. Has just put it out there in the 80s for people to learn. There's 4, I always say it's like this thumb, and then there's these 4 legs that come around. And it really is I believe that the G-spot is no spot at all. It's when the legs of the clitoris are engorged. And that takes about 20 minutes at least of devotion. And the masculine principle in wholeness, regardless of your sexual preference or identification, the active principle to take it out of genitals serves and loves unconditionally. And the feminine principle receives and nourishes and gestates and surrenders to it. So it takes time for a woman's clitoris to engorge just by biology. So it's going to need attention from the mind and the body. And as it does engorge, just like the erectile tissue in the penis, but that is multifunctioned. The penis, has the ureter function too. Only the clitoris at 8 weeks when it starts differentiating from male or female biology. And of course, there's so much with gender fluidity now, which I so respect, that then becomes, I believe that it is our superpower, super tool, and it has been ignored. There was, in the witch hunt ages, a woman who showed a clitoris was said to have the devil's teat and proved a witch. That's still in the culture. There's still genital mutilation going on this planet. There's still men. I have had the blessing to have some relationships with men that are willing and men that are not willing because of their own pride and shame, which is the pleasure principle attaching to I'm not enough, be able to really talk with me about what I need and to be able to live it. And so that spans the globe right now. What I can feel happening in my body, being an energy healer and a woman, is that my heart center in the center of my chest is thumping and pulsing, not just my physical heart. So I'm going to take a deep breath, because when this happens, what I know is happening is that this wildfire is spreading. So I invite you, dear, precious, powerful, pleasure-filled listener, to breathe into your huge heart, because it's what we seek, is to love and experience love.
Oh, sister, so much there, so much there. So much we don't know. And I love the untapped uranium. I think that's amazing. And their openness, because they are. And people are hungry for more pleasure and less shame. And as women, and I being one of them, there's so much healing to be had around sexual pleasure, being able to receive. I loved how you were talking about the devotion and the fact that it takes time for our bodies to respond. Certainly it's different than when we were in our 20s and 30s. And for a while there, like in my 40s, I had a lot of shame around how long it was taking for me to get turned on. I shamed myself. I shamed my mind. Oh, I must be broken. I feel so badly that I have to ask for more, And then, of course, that is really tricky when you're dating and starting a relationship or in a relationship and having that communication, which is key, right? With your partner around our needs. And it's still a little tricky for me. I'll be really honest with you, because it's like, it takes me a while. And I recently ended a relationship with somebody who was like totally like on board with the devotion and giving me time. And I still was like, yes, I freaking love sex, and I definitely can have that pleasure and engorgement and all that. And it takes time. And it's people like you and me as well, bringing this message forth, which is we need to know ourselves. We need to love ourselves up. We need to have connection with our own body and take that shame off. Because if I'm feeling shame, or if I have something in my brain saying I'm not good enough or something's wrong with me, that I have to ask for more before he enters me, like what's that going to do to intimacy? What's that going to do to my self-esteem and our deep connection to ourself and others? And so I'm loving what you're sharing. I know there's so much power in the pussy, the yoni, whatever you want to call it, the energy, the fact that it's not just this tiny little tip. Sherry Winston's a dear friend of mine, and she's a sexual educator. I've had her on my show and events here and there through the years. And she's brought so much of this work out there around how huge, in a gorgeous, amazing way, that clit is. The clitoris is like, it has those legs, as you said, and it spreads all the way through the whole pussy, and it's just amazing. And if we don't know that, we're out of touch with that. And again, the shame and all that stuff. So this conversation is so important. Anything you wanted to add to that?
First of all, what you just shared about your personal experience, that is the bravery and the dignity of a woman devoted to oneness. I call it the fierce feminine. Like, I have these fierce feminine prosperity power program. The fierce feminine advocates for the one without compromise. She doesn't annihilate the other. She just advocates for it. And that honesty, I recently, we have a similar story as you and I.
Shocker.
And I have been seeking the masculine divine in human form and the feminine divine in human form, which can be feminine and feminine, masculine and masculine with the different roles. One of the things I seek, the masculine principle in wholeness, acts, protects, and provides a container with unconditional love is a stable force that preserves the feminine, protects the feminine, doesn't protect against her and shun her and judge her. And that's the wounded masculine. And for a woman in her whole sacred feminine to surrender to that, to allow herself to be played like the vast, incredible instrument that she is, it takes that faith and trust in the masculine. And we come with our own wounds. We come with societal collective wounds. And it takes some time for that to happen. And to be able to share that, I experienced that recently, is that it didn't then feel like that reverential, towards me, the devotion and love of what I am. And not because, I love that person, I respect and revere, but I had to, for what it is, this humanity at the crossroads of a soul, and what I've chosen to step into the public like you have and put our squiggles, which is what I call money. Money is not a real thing. It's just what people agree has power. It is emphatically not limited. And I agree. You have all the power you need. You, dear listener, have all the power you need. We all do, to bring in this pleasureful, joyful, golden new age. And the orgasm on many levels has the energy of the oneness. I have always said, whatever God is, whatever the greater, infinite, great spirit, Jesus, Buddha, Baba, science, nature, love, goddess. I know I talk fast. However, you know something greater than yourself does not have external genitalia. Like that oneness is not separate, but for the purpose of creation, separates into active and receptive, which we've classically known as masculine and feminine. And when those two merge back together in that moment, whether it's you with your active touching yourself and the receptive receiving, or it's in relationship with your partner, or it's with a man entering you, if that is how you receive sexual pleasure. And when you come to that moment of orgasm, whether it's with manual stimulation or oral or however it is, you have within you, I have within me, the exact same power that made worlds. The Big Bang was the biggest orgasm that the divine ever freaking had. And let there be light, and let there be vibration and pleasure. And when we come into that state, and when we use our imagination, which is the steering wheel for our divine force, at the moments when we are starting to crest, there's that point. I know that point where there's point of no return. I can lose it a lot. I can lose it. I can lose it. I can lose it. And I say, whatever you need to fantasize or to experience to get you from there to the point of no return. We have sexual fantasies that have a lot of reasons for them. But when you get to that point of no return and you start to crest into that, that is the time to imagine, envision, and feel what you long for yourself physically, in your relationships, in your body, in your finances, in your careers, in your communities, in the world, because then, and let there be light. We have that power. And when this applies with I looked up masturbate. I've never liked that word. Masturbate. It actually, I don't like the root of it. It comes from the Latin to disturb or defile by hand.
Yeah.
No, I like to have my way with myself and self-pleasure.
That's what Sherry Winston, talks about as, a lot. She'll mention that, solo play, self-pleasure, like that. That's that word. It's and it sounds so much nicer too. Self-pleasure.
And self-pleasure and pleasure with another, which is what we seek.
Yeah.
We seek that coming together. When we merge, we seek the lover and the beloved, why there's so many songs, why we're listening, we're talking, and all of the things that we're doing right now, and movies, is because it is an experience of that merging back in the oneness. And sexuality and sexual pleasure is a bridge to that love. It's one bridge. It's not the only bridge, but ooh la la, and hell yes, heaven yes. Yeah. It is a wonderful bridge to that. And as women come into this, I have the great pleasure as part of my profession to be with women who want to conceive through pregnancy and birth, and people on the other birthing when you drop your soul and you birth into the other realm. And I have all these fairy godchildren, I call them, tons of them that I've been part of. And once they get to a certain age, especially the ones that identify as female, I can't wait to talk about the clitoris with them. I usually start around 9 or 10, and their moms and dads know. I ask them permission. I said, but you know that what Auntie Cinderella is coming with.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Auntie Cinderella. You're amazing.
So to just own it. And as young girls and women own the pleasure current and men respect and revere it, or those that love them, the pregnancy issues, all of those kind of things will dissolve in the authority and reverence for the joyful power of a woman's body that can move in time with the tides, that can gestate new life, that can feed new life, that can attend the way we can with the infinite sacred feminine fueling us. And oh, Junie, at this moment, in the eternal now and coming towards into the fleeting future, it is happening.
So we good. So good. On that note, you have a friggin' app, Prosper Plus app. Tell us about it and how people can participate with it and find it.
I have been devoted to making what I know to be true and have the blessings to travel the world and receive available to everyone and everything, just like you are. And the Prosper Plus app is one of my newer forums. It's free on Apple and Google, and it has on it all of my podcasts and live streams and that are public for the community. And also, dear wonderful person, an expansive prosperity for life training, where in a multi-module session, I share what I have learned, because prosperity and money and pleasure are related. The feminine principle, money is a feminine principle, and the feminine principle is about nurturing, and 8,000 nerve endings devoted just to physical pleasure and to be able to feed and enjoy life. So I so wholeheartedly, literally invite you, dear listener, to download that app for free and to receive that. And you can upgrade to the other levels that I have through that, the Prosper Plus Premium. I started something called the Galactic Council Women All Genders Welcome, because I decided that I was going to make a stand on the truth within, that I can be a superhero. People can call themselves all sorts of titles. I can call myself what I call myself, the Empress of Infinite Supply and Radiant Love. Our childhood imagination, our adult consciousness, and galactic, which comes from mother's milk to lactate, the Milky Way galaxy, that we are part of something greater. There is a wonderful forum there and there's also, just listen to this one title. I started a Facebook group called Women Attracting Gobs of Money and Oodles of Power, Uplifting the World. And the asterisk, I have a women asterisk, or anyone who respects and reveres the feminine principle, the female body, and the energy of mother. All welcome, always welcome, regardless of gender identity or none. And then the Fierce Feminine Prosperity Power Program. You can find all of these different levels, like we all do, with us in the business, in the busyness of serving the upliftment. And if it's not profitable, if we want to uplift the financial systems, what you and I are doing needs to be valuable and profitable.
Yeah.
This needs to be. And I know that from the core of my being. So I want to empower women on every level, from the clitoris to the bank account, from the heart to the crown, from the wild blueberry to the steak and the wine, whatever it is. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to serve at your calling, Junie, and the calling of every soul. We are connected. What people are experiencing with you and me right now, we are a figment of their imagination. They created us to serve them and to remember that we're one.
So good.
And it's so good. Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank you, Cindy. This was just a powerhouse interview. I'm like, wow. I'm so wowed and so thrilled to have had this time with you. I so want you back on here soon. There are things that we didn't get to. There were so many topics to explore and a huge amount of golden nuggets in our conversation. Thank you for the work you're doing. All right. Soul Sister, that's our episode. I think your head is spinning right now and you're going, okay, it's time to do some clitoral research, some pleasure research. And with that said, that concludes our episode for today. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so you get notified and you don't miss any of these golden, amazing episodes. Share it with a friend. If you're on Apple, subscribe, all that jazz. You know the deal. This is how we reach more people and you don't miss a thing. My intention is to support you in the second half of life, to have it be extraordinary. And our topic today certainly talks about your pleasure and your power changing the world too. So if you're not happy with how the world is looking or feeling or showing up, it starts with you. It It starts with you getting in tune with your own heart and your own body and your own pleasure and sharing the love. Let's have love be the epidemic. Absolutely. It's where we started in this conversation, and I want to end there. Let's have love be the new virus that spreads across the globe. Mwah!
You've been listening to Midlife Love Out Loud. Thanks for tuning in this week. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your gal pals. Tune in every Wednesday to experience more exciting insights, tools, and wisdom on calling in next level love. And until we meet again, be gentle with your precious heart and know how deserving of love you are.